Hello, how are you guys doing today? I'm going to shoot you guys a couple of phrases, and I want you to just think about where are these characteristics? Where can you find these characteristics of phrases at? I mean, where or what can you find these characteristics in or at? Blood and gore, intense violence, strong sexual content, drug usage. Uh, let's just think, where can you find these at? These phrases that the entertainment software rating board, which is video game, video game board, they use these phrases to describe the content of several games in the Grand Theft Auto series, which the new installment came out 2 years ago. Um, this game is one of the most popular video game series among teenagers and kids. In 2008, 97% of youth ages 12 to 17 play some type of video game. They have arcade games, sports games, racing games, shooting games, any type of games. And that two-thirds of them play action and adventure games that tend to contain violent content. Researchers they suggest that, of course, um, boys play these violent video games more frequently than females. Um, but a separate study it found that more than half of all video games uh, they contain some violent content, including more than 9% of those rated as appropriate for kids 10 and older. Um, as for us, you can help deter that one teen or adult whose mind has been influenced by violent video games, and you can prevent him or her from making a stupid decision because I mean video games they do have an effect. They can have an effect on the minds of some people. Um, Today, I like to talk to you about the threat of violent video games, alternatives for kids, teens, and adults, video game alternatives, and how you can protect your kid, how you can protect kids from potential harm from these video games. Given how common these games are, it's very small wonder that mental health doctors often find themselves asking like, what is the impact of these video games on children? This the view endorsed by an organization as the American Academy of Pediatrics, which from now I just be saying AAP. They bring light. They bring light to this content. They say the exposure to violent media, including video games, they can contribute to real life violent behavior, and they can potentially harm children in other ways. Some researchers they question this theory. Um, they argue that most youth are not affected uh, by this violent content from video games. But one thing that both sides agree upon is that it is possible for parents or the kids' big brothers, which would be me or which could be you, or just people or young adults. They can take steps that can limit the possible negative effects of video games on little kids. One video game I have, one video that I have would be Call of Duty. This game has it sells is one of the top selling video games of today. As long with Grand Theft Auto or Halo, uh, of course those are shooting games. They definitely contain violent content, but I mean, as for today, I play it, and my little brothers play it, and my little brothers are just 7 and 13. So you can tell that um, our little kids ages from you. As for my instance, would be 7. 7 to 20, they play this video game, and young minds like that, it can have an effect, a negative effect on a young 7-year-old mind or 13-year-old mind that they might not can distinguish, may know right from wrong, but they might not can distinguish uh, this the mind effect that a video game can have on them. Um, in its most recent policy, uh, the AAP, recent policy, the AAP, it stated that this is talking about on media violence. It includes discussions of video games as well as televisions, movies, and music. They all contain violent content. So not necessarily just video games have an effect on children, but just television and the music that they play. These all have an effect. Where the AAP, it cites a study that links exposure to violence in the media with aggression and violent behaviors in youth. The AAP, it describes violent video games as one of many influences on behavior, noting that many children television shows that little kids may watch and movies that they may watch, they also contain violent scenes and violent content. But the authors, they believe that video games are particularly harmful because they are interactive and they encourage role playing. At a time, my little brother, he might play the game for 4 to 10 hours in a day. In a day, he might just play that Call of Duty game or that Grand Theft Auto game 4 to 10 hours in a day. Um, and authors, they fear that these games may serve as virtual rehearsals for actual violence. Um, Secondly, I like to give you an alternative for these kids that they can use instead of just playing those violent games. Um, Both the AAP and the AACAP, they reason that children learn by observing, mimicking, and adopting behaviors. That's a basic principle of the social learning theory. Um, these organizations, they express concern that exposure to aggressive behavior or violence in video games and other media such as the TV or the movies that the TV programs or movies that they watch over time, they may desensitize youth by numbing them emotionally, causing nightmares, sleep problems, impaired school performance, and they can lead to uh, aggressive behavior and bullying. Some alternatives would be to let your kids play. I wouldn't say those games, but let your kids play a different type of game, such as a sports game like football, basketball, baseball, which it's not very violent content. I would say football because of the tackling and the hitting is some violence. But I mean, a lot of kids play football, so let your kids play those games. Uh, it will be football, basketball, baseball. Let them play. Another alternative would be arcade games, such as Pac-Man, or let them play a racing game, such as NASCAR. These have no very little to none violent content at all. And thirdly, um, I like to talk about how you can protect kids and children from potential harm from video games. Uh, for one, you can check the game ratings. The game rating is it's kind of like movie ratings where you have PG, PG-13, rated R. The game ratings would be E, which stands for everyone. Everyone can play. You have T for 10. It's content suitable for teenagers from 13 on up. Then you have mature, which would which the this content is it's the Call of Duty content, violent content, sexual content in it, and so forth and so on. But definitely the Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, Halo, those are all mature games. especially Grand Theft Auto. It has the highest rating of them all. And you can also, you can also set limits on the amount of time you play these games. My other brother, I mean, I've told you he plays the game for a very long time, but you can set a limit on how long they can play, and also you can encourage participation in sports. Make them go outside, make them go play, make them go play outside with their friends, make them uptake some after school activities of some sort. I've talked to you about the threat of violent video games, to alternatives for your kids or for your little brothers or little sisters, instead of just playing those violent games, and how you can protect kids from potential harm from video games. Uh, you can help deter at one teen or adult whose mind has been influenced by video games, and you can prevent him from doing something so dumb and something that he'll regret. Uh, Video games, they share much in common with other pursuits that are enjoyable and rewarding, but they may become hazardous in certain contexts. Parents, brothers, sisters, or even just a peer, they can protect the little kid by remaining engaged with them and providing limits and guidance as necessary.